All right, Gero 200, how are you? Summer 2023. So this is gonna be lecture number 2, okay? And um, and it's still May 21st, okay? A little bit later. The only difference is I got a haircut, okay? Um, and that and that is part of some of the financial planning you think about. You can just during the pandemic have your wife figure out how to do haircuts, and then you don't have to spend 50, 60, $100 to get a man's haircut, okay? Because it really doesn't matter with a guy, okay? Awesome. Okay, so the first lecture was a lot of background. That video was great. This one builds on that, obviously. Okay, so we're going to go right in here to week number 2. Okay, and just want to remind you that a strategy, of course, is to come in here, and as we're going through this, when you're doing your readings, you come down here and you find your browser once again. The only difference is you're going to go into your weekly assignments, okay? And you would go into week 2 right here. And what's going to be missing is my video that I'm making right here is going to go right in here. But what you can do is basically, I'm going to be going through all this information as you will as well. But you can just open your quiz up. All right, hit begin. And then if I were you guys, I would look over the questions, okay? Read through the questions, okay? And this one's a little hint, right? You should be looking at US date, not global date. This article that we've been reading is really looking at global issues, meaning countries all around the world. We're going to, in the future, hone down in terms of US issues, but it's a big, big issue in terms of countries all around the world, okay? Here's a question about Japan. Here's a question about China. Here's a question looking at these guys in terms of, what's the big financial burden, okay? Are they communicable diseases, okay, like chickenpox, measles, bacterial infections of the gut, or are they non-communicable, long-lasting diseases that take 25 years to deal with? I think I just gave you a big hint right there, okay? Who has the lowest public pension system for men? And we're going to look at this one. We'll look at an article. So where is the incentive for men to leave the labor market? Okay, I'm going to give you a big hint. Okay, it's us. We don't get as much money as other countries. Okay, so that's the drill. And so what I would do then is I would go back over here. Okay, and I would then open up. So you have the quiz opened up. You familiarize yourself with the questions, and now you go right in here and you're going to start this process. My dogs are wrestling over there. They do kind of like a kickboxing, MMA, crazy stuff. Okay, so we're going to do the last 1, 2, 3, 4 modules, sum it up with the end notes. Okay, now in order to do this, okay, we've captured some of the imagery that's in that reading right here. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go right here and we're going to open up the PDF file. Okay, awesome. Remember trend 6, that's what we're supposed to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab my scroll bar here, and I'm going to get all the way down 4, 5, and then we're going to remember Russia. Geez, everybody's leaving Russia. Only the old people are sticking around. Okay, and then we're going to go into trend 6. Okay, now so all this dynamic of people having less kids. Okay, in developed countries, people are surviving to really, really old ages, and this then creates this ever-changing world of family structure, okay? And so then you have to wrap your head around that, okay? As an individual, okay, and I'm always going to pitch this, what does it mean to you, okay? Let's say you get an unbelievable job, but it's in New Orleans, okay? Your family lives in New York City. How are you going to deal with that, okay? Or you pass up that job because you want to stay close to your older parents and grandparents, and that's the compromise that you make, okay? So there's these family structure, these transformations that are happening all the time, okay? And this is, again, a consequence of, sorry, I don't want to sneeze here, of having this dramatic increase in life expectancy, really all across the world. We have a global economy, okay, and people will actually oftentimes leave their country. So we have at the University of Southern California, USC, we have one of the highest enrollments of students from foreign countries, okay? And, and so there's a huge compromise that has to be made. They have to get all their ducks in a line at home, and oftentimes they miss out on big family events, okay? Alrighty, so when we look at countries around the world, okay, and we reflect on this transformation, another thing that happens is we have, you know, modern society. There's more divorce, there's more remarriage, there's, as a result, these blended families, okay? We have that in our side of the family, so, and then you have to deal with step-family relationships, and this really gets complicated in terms of the caregiving that's gonna happen. Who's gonna do what, okay? Really gets complicated in terms of estate planning, okay? Who's gonna inherit what? So these are all big, big, big things, okay? What's a big transformation that has happened that really started with Gen X, baby boomers, Gen Zers. You guys are at the very end of the Gen Zs. We don't have a new generation for the next crop of newbies, of newborns. But people don't get married anymore. That's the bottom line. People, the marriage rate is going down and down and down and down. And again, this makes for complicated family dynamics. Okay, and that's what this is all about. Okay. So these are some numbers right here in terms of, you know, how many people get divorced, okay? And we're looking at it says right here in the United States, 9% to 65 and over population is divorced or separated. And then we see that the divorce rates go up in younger groups, okay? And as a reflection of, you know, who wins and who doesn't, basically. We're going to go through this when we get down to hone down into really kind of the economics of aging and financial planning. And women, they disproportionately have more roles and responsibilities. It's not a burden, okay, of raising the children, but it is a burden because financially that can set them backwards, okay? So non-married women are less likely than non-married men to have accumulated assets, okay? So that's right there. When you're a woman, you're less likely to have money, less likely to have a pension, and then that is very difficult older in life, okay? All right. If you opt to not have children, who's going to care for you, okay? That is the new trend, okay? Fertility is going down, so you know, ideally we have this multi-generational co-op, so to speak, where, you know, I had two older brothers. I'm a baby boomer. They're even older than I am, but we still had this coordinated caregiving for my mom, who was able to live in her own house until she was almost 94, all right, which was awesome. But we had to make sure everything was all lined up, okay? If there are no children, then what's going to happen to these older people that are living on their own, okay? So we get these living arrangements that happens. Obviously, the preference is to live in your family-based nuclear households. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to redefine families, okay? Meaning the logical family, you know, who are your core group of friends in the community that can help look out for maybe your parents or grandparents because you happen to have taken a new position where you're hundreds and hundreds of miles away, okay? Alrighty, so we're looking at this transformation of living arrangements, and we were honing in on Japan because they, remember, were the fastest country in the world to make this just leap into having many, many more people that were over 65 years of age. And now, of course, you know, on a percentile basis, they have more centenarians, more 80 years and old, and so they're having to deal with this because they had really, really low fertility rates, okay? So back in the day, so again, we're looking historically, this is going from 1960 to 2000. So this is old data, but again, this is a relatively new article. It kind of jumps around, okay? And it shows you the source of the information right down here, looking from 1960 to 2000. And we can look at the color code back up here, and living arrangements if you're over 65, okay? So obviously in 1960, you were much more likely to be living with a married child. That was family piety. It was the multi-generational contract, okay? But the economy of Japan got really complicated. The competition for resources got intense, and as a result, people stopped having kids. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to turn off my phone. That's our outdoor camera, Arlo, listening to the dogs bouncing off the walls. Okay, so what happened then is back in the day, you had children. But you see here the percentage of people over 65 that are living with their children has gone down, 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 and continues to increase. Okay, you see that with spouse only, that usually grandma and grandpa would be living with you. That was the old contract. Okay, and then more and more, there is no, either you didn't have children, your children have passed away, or your children have moved away, and now it's grandma and grandma living together right here. And then when you have people, one of the spouses die, then you're going to see this increase in people living alone. And as you see also, God forbid, but institutional care like an assisted living facility or a long-term care facility like a nursing facility. Okay, so that's the transformation, and this is happening, of course, worldwide. So it's a big, big deal. All right. So if we are more and more, go back up here again, Japan being the canary in the coal mine, if we are more and more likely to be alone, okay, either with our spouse or just on our own, then we can't rely so much on our children. And also, okay, the social support system in most countries, and you see Japan is one of the worst, we're right behind them in terms of how much money is given to people through what we call the entitlement program of Social Security. It's not supposed to be a sustainable income, okay? It keeps you just below poverty level, and really it's up to you to be investing along the way, which is easy for rich people. And for poor people or people that have immigrated here and are poor, they're left out, okay? And so as a result, more and more people are working to much later lives. We'll see in terms of the burden that is happening in Europe's economies. Remember, these are old world economies where they used to have a guaranteed pension that people would be able to access that was very reasonable, that they would access when they were 55 years of age. Okay, so people had zero incentive to keep working. They knew when 55 comes, the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow, and they can just kick back and go fishing or doing whatever. So as a result, these countries are now hamstrung, okay, which means they have this huge financial burden of paying these people out, but because fertility went down, less people paying into the system through taxes to support it. And we're having that problem right now as well, okay? So this is a big policymaker problem, a big struggle. And we saw that recently, all the riots that were going on in France, where France had just passed a law where they were transitioning. Oh God, I don't remember how much it was, but it was something, based on our standards, was kind of lucrative. I think they were moving from 60 to 62, okay, in terms of getting their full government-based pension. And here our Social Security, which is much smaller, we're transitioning to 70, okay, and it's going to keep transitioning. That's what's happening. The politicians in DC, they kind of him and haw about it, but that is the reality. We're all going to be expected to work longer and longer and longer. Okay, alrighty. So, what is the fate of these pensioners? Okay, well, here's a classic example. Argentina had a big economic collapse with just high poverty rates among Japanese elderly. Okay, because Japan said, and I'll show you. We're going to show you that figure later on. Okay, so yeah, so this is a big concern. How money makes the world turn. You got to live somewhere. You got to be able to eat. Okay, and that's what this is all about. Okay. Women, again, always are more severely impacted because their careers are oftentimes delayed or stalled out because of the responsibility of raising kids, if they do have kids, okay? And separate from that, women make less money for the same job as men do, okay? Alrighty, so if we come down here, okay, and we start looking at this, I'm going to scroll to the actual figure right here. So we see that again, this is from the transitioning happening from 94 to 2004 in the European Union. So these old school countries. And so what's happening is, and they're looking at, again, this is not a big age, okay? You're looking here, people ages 55 to 64, okay? Which in our country, everybody's working except for the elite, okay? But we see in Europe, back in the day, okay, in 1994, you had less than 50% working because of their pension system, okay? But what's happening now is it's slowly ticking upward, okay? Women are on a percentile basis because of the fact that they are responsible for raising children too often, and so we had less women working, but we see that they are rising up in terms of on a percentile basis compared to men, right? But again, this is a really big difference in the proportion of women and men working in that age group, okay? And when you guys achieve that age group, it's going to be far, far different, okay? Awesome. You read through this, and this is what I was getting to, I was talking about in terms of the incentive to retire, okay? So this is the public pension incentive to leave the labor force for men in 11 countries. And we're going to look at the percent of men ages 55 to 65 not working, okay? All right. And then over here, why would that be? Okay, because in these countries on this side, they get such a great pension at such an early age, at age 55. So they're like, I'm out of here. Okay, the incentive to leave because of what pensions offered is very low in Japan and very low in the U.S. and Sweden. Okay, far less government support of people in that age group, people after the age of 55. Okay, so as a result, okay, a lot of people leave the workforce in these countries because they have such great pensions. And then what's happening? These governments are going broke because of it. Whereas down here, the government says you're on your own, or your family better keep for you, and it creates crisis in the modern world. Okay, so this social insurance system that I've been talking about. So these tax-based lucrative pension systems all throughout the European Union, the minimal support in Japan, and the kind of barely adequate support in the US, which is called our Social Security system, and Medicare, which is something you're going to pay into every single paycheck. Okay, it's evolving. Okay, because we have these escalating expenditures globally, okay, in terms of the pension system. Every country is different. If you look in the Nordic regions, okay, so Norway and the Netherlands, they pay really, really high taxes compared to us, much higher taxes. And that money then goes towards supporting people that are in need, older people, children, et cetera, okay? So, but they have it all worked out. They're very, very happy countries in terms of surveys that have been done, okay? All right, so old age social insurance systems, okay? And that's what this is all about, all right? You can read up here. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but I'm going to kind of guide through this. And we see here, we're going to look at the economic well-being of a country, okay? And that's what's called, I talked about it earlier, the gross domestic product, okay? So what that is how much money is being made by all the different services and goods. This is the global economy. Are you selling chips? Are you selling amazing olive oil? On and on and on and on and on. The income that comes from that, okay? And there's tax associated with that goes back to the government, okay? It's big business, okay? And it's a big positive. So it's a very, okay, we're in the black, okay? Meaning we have lots and lots of money. And then you slowly are sticking your hand into the bank and you're withdrawing money, okay? From that bank, so to speak, okay? What happens is then you start going deeper and deeper and go into the red and you start running deficits, okay? So we look at these countries, okay, the European Union, okay, and we look at the percentage of the gross domestic product that is going out as this entitlement program, okay? the retirement and healthcare system for the older people. And we see Italy is at the top, Poland, Germany, Sweden, these are all, and we see these percentages, okay, that are stacking up in terms of the European Union, okay. Ireland, not so much, okay, you're on your own, okay. So what I want to do then is leave this here. Let's go back, and what we did is they didn't have the domestic readout for us, but what I did is I found some articles where we could see how we stack up. So this is that very same figure right here, okay? And then we come down here and we're going to look and see how we stack up, okay? So we saw that Italy was, very high, okay? We come back over here, okay? And this is a more modern figure than the other one, okay? That's 2019. This is 2003. You see Italy was about 15% of their gross domestic product. The money was being withdrawn to give older people something to live on, their version of Social Security, okay? We see here it is right here. Again, Italy, super high. Greece is even worse, okay? How do we stack up? So we are about 1/3 of that, okay? So we don't rank super high, okay? Here's Ireland, way down here, okay? Colombia, you're on your own, okay, in terms of version of Social Security, okay? This is the average of all of these countries. And it says the OECD, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, these giant global groups, okay? You've heard of the G7, this is just another one, okay? Awesome. We hone it down even further, okay? Public and private, okay? So in terms of the US, so we see here, looking at France and Italy, okay? Public being the light blue, it's all public pension. This is all, you pay taxes and the government's gonna give you a check. And then the kind of darker blue is this little kind of personal investment where people take their money and they invest it on their own in, say, a mutual fund in the stock market. You see right here, we have a much lower rate of investment, okay, and we see that when you do see pensions, some companies still give pensions, okay? So this is a company-based pension, not a personal investment. So I was wrong on that, okay? Some companies do give pensions, but you see that it's about 40% company, and the rest of it is on a percentile basis is government-based pensions, okay? And this right here describes exactly what we're talking about, okay? Social Security is separate from public pensions in the U.S. So this is not talking about Social Security. This is just pensions going out to government employees, etc. Okay. For some reason, my dog is eating the flowers outside. Okay. All right. So most European countries offer a guaranteed public pension system right here, equivalent to our Social Security program. Okay. But it's much more lucrative. So you can read through all that. Okay. All right. Will Social Security remain as we know it? Maybe grab Desi's head out of the flowers, Julie. And oh, he's running. He's afraid. All right. And yeah, we have Desi and Lucy. Those are our silly dogs. Okay. So we're looking at the population is aging. Okay. And we're seeing right here what they're talking about here is we are this year we started to dip into Social Security Trust to pay retired people in America. Okay. So what does that mean? Before it was a separate investment. Okay. And the money would then spin off some value. Okay. So it's kind of like what we do with our own money, where you get this compounding. Okay. And so there's an increase in the value of the money as it went in. What happened is it's gone down. It's gone down, and now we're actually having to pull money from the principal, so it's shrinking. It's shrinking, and so what happens with population aging? Okay, this is the number of workers in our country per Social Security retiree. So back in the day, 16 workers. It's called your FICA, your tax you see it in your paycheck, combination of Social Security and Medicare tax. Okay, you would 16 people would pay into the benefit that one person got. All right, so that was kind of reasonable. That what's happened now, is the most recently tabbed 2015, 3 people were paying in that the same one person's needs. 235, 2 people will. The same one person has the same financial needs. That means we're going to have to pull a lot more money out of your paycheck in order to make it work. All right. That's a big, big deal, my friends. All right. Something to look at. Okay, so we see how we stack up with Europe. Okay, China. Okay, same drill. Look at China. This is what I was showing in the previous figure in terms of the U.S. Okay, so we were looking right over here. Sorry, right here about how many workers are paying for that retiree benefit, and then we come back over here in this article and we see in the ratio of workers to pensioners, okay? And you see it's declining, and they hit that tab that we were approaching, 2 to 1 in about 2035. They hit it in 2005, okay? And it has continued to go down, 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 down to the point that it's 1 to 1, okay? Because they have a lot of people, 2.4 billion people in China, okay? This is the millions of pensioners that are people over the age of retirement for them, and this is how many workers are supporting it. So it's a big, big issue. I don't know how it's going to go, guys. All right, it's something that has to go. So these are the big economic challenges, okay? And I'm just going to I like to look at the figures and interpret the figures for you. I'm kind of reading through it. And so the incentive is, and again, it's crazy that people from the Nordic countries get it, okay? So not only are they getting a really good pension, but they take their money and they invest it, okay? And so we're going to learn about mutual funds and stocks. Stocks would be choosing individual companies, and you buy a small ownership, okay? So however many individual stocks that the company sells, you get, where you own 0.001% of the company, okay? And then when the value of the company goes up, then the value of your stock goes up, okay? Sometimes that individual stock will spin off dividends. You can then spend that money, okay? So this is where the value of the stock is staying about the same, but there's a big increase in value and they throw the money at you and then it's yours, okay? Or you can sell your stocks and make money and reinvest, okay? So Sweden and Denmark are way ahead of the pace here, okay? The other one are mutual funds. These are bundles of thousands of companies in a category. We're going to talk about that later. That's how I invest my money, okay? And what do you see here, okay? These countries are way ahead of the game. And again, this is why the Nordic countries have such happiness, because they have lots of financial understanding and knowledge, and it sets them up for a very kind of economic and financial stability and happiness when they retire, okay? You see over here, remember Italy? Remember Greece? Not so much, okay? Why does nobody invest their money in these countries? It's because they know, well, the government's going to pay for me, okay? Except for it is a runaway train. So there's all kinds of opportunities for economic growth. The bottom line, when we look at workers right here, and that's what this is, looking at a tire worker, okay? So we see right here that this is the dependency, okay? So when you're of this age, you're making money, boom, 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 boom. Your parts of your paycheck are going into the tax system, and it's going to help pay for those people that are not working, part one, okay? You have young children, you have old people right here, okay? And you can see this is look at your labor income right here, and this is the amount of spending that you do, okay? So you have a lot more income than you spend during this great period of your life right here, okay? Then you go to retirement, your spending doesn't decrease, your needs don't increase, okay? You got rent, you got mortgage, you got gas, you got cars, you got groceries, on and on and on, but your income has gone way, way down. So if you have not invested, there's this huge disparity, and something to think about here. Little kids, okay, they are not as costly. They don't have to go get their own apartment and stuff like that, all right? All righty, so you read through this, it's an overview, very, very, very cool, okay? All right, so when we go back here, you've done the quiz, and now we use the discussion here. You get in there. we want you to take a look at these figures. Okay, this shows you this kind of shift in the dependency ratio we saw earlier. Okay, a lot more older people, a lot younger people. That's going to change your dynamic of caregiving, also the change dynamic of governments in terms of resources and where they need to be thrown. Okay, got to be thrown more at older people. Okay, we can see the speed at which this transition is happening, where there's more and more older people right here that we see right this in different countries. And we can see, again, the old school European countries had a long time to figure it out. And now we see here these other countries that were in non-industrial, undeveloped types of countries. It's happening real quick, and they're not ready. Japan wasn't ready, okay, and the politics that come with this, okay, and this is looking at raw numbers, okay, and the millions and millions of people that are going to be coming over the age of 65 in both China and India, and it's a big deal. It's something that both these countries have to wrap their heads around, okay? So you've gone through that, okay? You look at these, okay? You address the prompt. You look at these two videos about what Japan is doing because they are way ahead of the curve in terms of these problems, okay? So people work, no more children. It's very tragic, so it's a very cool video to look at that. What they're doing in some segments of Japan to deal with this problem, and then this is a really cool article, okay? How people aren't having kids and they're working themselves to death, and it's just a crazy dynamic that's happening. If you have a subscription to Business Insider, you can click right here. If not, we've made a PDF file, as you can see right here. Okay, and there it is. So there's the PDF file, and so you can just kind of sift through this and familiarize yourself with what's going on. Okay, my friends? Awesome. Okay, so that is that, and so that is the end of lecture number 2. All right. You guys are doing great so far. Okay. Love reading your introductions, and so I will be doing the next lecture from Playa Pilada, just outside of Nassau, Costa Rica, as we're running a May master class down there. It's all good. They have great internet, and I'll be doing the same thing we're doing here. We're going to keep the program going. We're going to keep the flow coming, guys. And so you guys do well. Peace and fight on.